What did you make of the announcement that Rishi Sunak, all of his announcements he had to say yesterday afternoon? Do you welcome his mini-budget?
Yeah, he's walking in the right direction. Everyone's a social democrat now. The Tory philosophy is long dead and would all be in a bad situation if he was being a real Tory. So he's following modern monetary theory, really. And you're saying there that the taxpayer will be paying. Well, I don't think the taxpayer will be paying. There's nobody lending it. He's doing exactly as you alluded to. He's shaking the magic money tree and just printing the cash. He's not printing enough of it, but he's getting some grease into the economy. Probably only about half than what he needs, according to the SNP Finance Secretary.
So he should be spending a lot more than he actually was spending. You said you don't think the taxpayer will be... Hold on a minute. You said you don't think the taxpayer will be paying for it. The taxpayer always ultimately ends up paying for it. If it's borrowed, we have to pay back the interest and the loan eventually. It'll be future taxpayers who pay for it.
Well, the UK's had a national debt of continuously since 1911, so I'm not sure who quite has paid that back. But
the interest is paid by the taxpayer.
Well, the UK produces its own pound, so the UK doesn't really have a problem at all. Where is this money coming from at the moment? Who's lending it? Nobody. Who's putting tax? Nobody's coming with the magic money tree.
Well, hold on a minute. In that case, he may as well just print trillions and we'll all just get given £1 billion each. I mean, I'm quite happy. You want to make me a billionaire? That'd be brilliant.
I think you're catching on with modern monetary theory. The only limit he's got, and this is a serious limit, is inflation. And he's a long way from inflation with the amount of unemployed he's likely to have. So, we're some very interesting times. I mean, one of the things, his policies, you can quarrel with. Given that meal deal could be risky. But one of the things that we've got to face up to is a lot of countries are going to have to be producing money to grease their economy at the moment, because the economy requires a lot of liquid to be put into it because there's nothing happening.
You say the meal deal could be risky. Why do you think the meal deal is risky?
Well, I mean, I think, as you said, if everybody went out for a meal together, and with COVID going around, if there's a second wave, we've got to remember that the COVID numbers globally are still rising and they're still high. And, if something comes back from somewhere else and people are mixing, that, of course, could be an agent to pass, or a vector, as they call it, to pass COVID. So,
well, hold on a minute. You're concerned about the economy, and you're saying the Chancellor should spend, billions and billions more to try and get the economy going. And at the same time, you're basically saying, I think everyone should stay in their homes and not go out because some people in Brazil are seeing rising infections in COVID. If everyone does stay at home and people don't go out, the economy is tanked.
It's not dramatic as you're presenting it at all. It's just something that you've got to be aware of. There's a reality of a virus out there. So you should think about the possibility of what could happen. There's many ways to get the economy going. But that's what I'm saying. You would maybe think about some of the policies. Are they the best policies or the worst policies? But overall, he's heading in the right direction. He's jettisoned Tory values. We can see that Sajid Javid was uneasy in the comments yesterday. So was maybe more fortunate that there's somebody more on the left wing in number 11 Downing Street, somebody more aligned to social democracy than somebody more aligned to traditional Tory values. He's not quite there, of course, but at least a little bit better than the usual nonsense from the Tories.
Okay, the thing I find difficult to balance up here is that many of the people who are most critical of the measures saying they're not enough, and the furlough scheme needs to be extended, and you need to be spending more money, all the help. You're the same people saying, for God's sake, don't leave your homes, we're all going to die. I mean, realistically, the economy is going to tank. If we don't get people back to work, back to some semblance of normal life, yes, with hand sanitizer coming out of our ears and wearing face masks in public places and all the social distancing, I'm all in favour of all of that so that we can get back to some semblance of normal life. And yes, we're going to have to accept that some people will die of coronavirus because some people die of something every single day. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, it's not enough because there's going to be mass unemployment, when the policies which you would push are basically contributing to that unemployment.
Well, I think you present a very extreme picture, if I may say, Julia. You paint something that nobody's actually saying you're advocating. You're taking aspects of concerns and aspects of some views and aspects of other views and putting them all together as one view. And I don't think I've heard that from anybody other than from yourself at the moment. What we do have is, I think the SNP have said as well, maybe Labour have these concerns too, that he mustn't end the furlough scheme prematurely either. I mean, the furlough scheme has been a very good social safety net policy that has helped an awful lot of people as they've shaken the magic money tree over the last few months, and that mustn't end prematurely, because they're absolutely right. You could have a wasted generation of young people if we don't take this seriously and do things properly. You're shaking the magic money tree is a very small price to pay rather than wasting and spoiling a whole generation of young people.
But we're talking about 6 months of people being paid most of their salary to sit at home. That's in no one's interest. We all understand during the middle of the lockdown when we've got to exponential growth of the coronavirus, but we haven't got that anymore.
Well, it'd be far worse than them sitting at home with no salary, or even worse still, deciding that they had to come to work in the middle of a pandemic, mixing with everybody.
But we're not in the middle of a pandemic anymore. We're not in the middle of an infectious... No, we're not. We are not. We are talking about very small numbers of people dying right now at the current time, and it's very tragic, every single one of those. But the reality is, in normal times, on average, every single day in this country, more than 1,600 people die of something. It's all very sad, but reality check, we need to be getting on with our normal lives as much as possible with the social distancing, etc. But saying that people should be staying at home on the taxpayer for months more, that's going to tank our economy forever.
Well, firstly, remember, it's not on the taxpayer. And I could do the same extremities back to you and say, you sound like a Texas radio show host only a few weeks ago. And what's happened there?
I sound like a Texas radio host? What do you mean?
You could sound like a Texas radio. What's happened there? That's all fine. You can all just go back.
I supported the lockdown. I support wearing masks.
Good, because you didn't sound like it there. You sounded very irresponsible then for just going a global pandemic. You may have a lull at the moment in the United Kingdom. You can't guarantee that lull, and the way it's come back in Texas, there's some serious...
That's because people aren't social distancing, they're not wearing masks. No, they never did a proper lockdown. No, that's absolute nonsense. They didn't have a proper lockdown. We're going to have local lockdowns where we see spikes. We are seeing a continuous, a very, very clear, sustained drop in infections in this country. It is no longer growing at anything like an exponential rate. We have got an R rate below zero. I'm sorry, below zero, I was saying below 1. It's irresponsible to pay people to stay at home right now, surely.
So you're guaranteeing that COVID's not coming back and we can all just carry on as normal? That's a very big blank check.
Do you not think that, I've just said, getting back to the semblance of normal life, wearing masks, social distancing, sanitising, doing everything right, but as much as possible, getting people back into the workplace, back out and about?
Well, we haven't got testing right, and we haven't got tracing correct in the UK in the way that the countries that have been successful in fighting COVID have done, and they themselves are very nervous. The countries that have opened up, because we don't know what's going to come around the corner in a few months' time. The cases of COVID are growing globally. That's why we're seeing the shaking of the magic money tree that we're having to see, and it's not the taxpayers that's paying this. It's not being borrowed from anywhere. The magic money tree has been shaken.
All right.
It's been shaken.
Angus, we'll have to leave it there. Angus MacNeil, Chair of the International Trade Select Committee, is also SNP MP.